fellow Patriots. Welcome back to another episode of Patriots of the American Republic. Everyone goes through a period, or several periods of moments in our lives when things get really tough. Have you ever had a friend or a family member go through hard times and you, thinking that you two were close, you helped them out in whatever manner you could? Hopefully that person appreciates and values the help that you gave them and saw that value within your friendship, right? What happens when the roles are reversed, though, and you're the one who's in a tough spot? That person that you helped out, were they there for you in your time of need? Hopefully, yes, but sometimes that person shows their true colors and ends up turning their back on you, essentially leaving you high and dry, right? Let's take a trip down memory lane to World War I and World War II. Europe, on the verge of being conquered and going from the continent of Europe to the continent of Germany, was saved by the United States of America because we got involved and we ended up saving them. Today, though not exactly the same type of a situation, the U.S. has asked its allies to assist with assuring the safe passage of ships in the area in the Strait of Hormuz. And unfortunately, there has been hesitation and reluctancies from our allies, and we'll dig into the details, right? Now, since the attacks in Iran started almost about 4 weeks ago now, the Iranian regime has shown their terroristic nature by not only attacking neighboring countries, but causing a great deal of concern across the Gulf, right? Against those Arab nations or against those Arab regions and so on and so forth, right? That concern carries over into the ships carrying various types of goods across the Strait of Hormuz. And what it's doing is it's causing a spike in the markets, right? Increasing oil prices, increasing prices on certain commodities, et cetera, right? Just last week, it was reported that several different ships were attacked and hit by these Iranian terrorists. Let's take a look.
Six tankers have been hit in the Gulf region in the past 48 hours, too close to Iraq's port in the northernmost part of the Persian Gulf. The attacks have fanned fears the war could cause a surge in inflation for the global economy.
Now, this is an obvious tactic by attacking ships and attempting to cause international pressure on the Americans to essentially stop their attacks, right? It's a tactic that these people have often used when it comes to Israel. These people attack. Once Israel counterattacks, they manipulate the situation in order to get international or to get the international community to apply pressure on Israel and get them to stop. So I think it's the same type of scenario here. By them doing this and attacking essentially innocent bystanders, essentially, they're going to try and get the international community to apply pressure and tell Trump, stop attacking, right?
Fortunate update for these Iranian tyrants. As NATO allies are coming together to shut down Iran in the region, some of the most powerful nations in the Gulf region are now starting to come together to coordinate against the Iranian regime.
Foreign ministers from across the Gulf region met in Riyadh to discuss the conflict spread. But while those talks were happening, Iran launched missiles targeting the Saudi capital. All were intercepted, but falling debris injured several people.
The targeting of Riyadh, while a number of diplomats are meeting, I cannot see as coincidental. And I think that's the clearest signal of how Iran feels about diplomacy. It doesn't believe in talking to its neighbors. It tries to pressure its neighbors. That's not going to work. The kingdom is not going to succumb to pressure. On the contrary, this pressure will backfire. And we're going to use every lever we have, political, economic, diplomatic, and elsewise, to get these attacks to stop.
In this case, though, Trump is not known for backing down. And once he goes into something, he doesn't stop, until it ends, right? So I think that strategy isn't going to work this time around. It's definitely not going to work with Trump. But by attacking these ships, it is causing global concern. And to be 100% honest, I'm not, again, 100% sure that the Trump administration anticipated this or not. Maybe they did, but maybe they didn't think that they were actually going to pull the trigger on this. I don't know. And obviously they're going to say otherwise. They're going to say, yes, we knew about it. Naturally, they're going to say it, that they did anticipate it, they didn't know about it. But again, I'm not 100% sure based on the actions that they're doing, they seem reactionary to me. But nonetheless, President Trump has called on regional allies to assist in protecting the ships in the area. Let's take a look.
US President Donald Trump calling on countries to send ships to the Strait of Hormuz. Writing in a post on Truth Social, he said, many countries, especially those who are affected by Iran's attempted closure of the Hormuz Strait, will be sending warships in conjunction with the United States of America to keep the strait open and safe. Hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area so that the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat from a nation that has been totally decapitated. The declaration coming as the US bombed Iran's Karg Island, which is the country's main hub for oil exports.
Now, since the area predominantly affects all of these countries mentioned just now, you'd think that they'd be willing to help since it benefits them and their people, but unfortunately, that's not the case here, as President Trump describes the types of responses that he's getting from the leaders of these countries.
Done a great job, and when we want to know, do you have any minesweepers? Well, would rather not get involved, sir. I said, you mean for 40 years we're protecting you and you don't want to get involved in something that is very minor? Very few shots going to be taken because they don't have many shots left. But they said, we'd rather not get involved. I just want the fake news media and everybody else to remember that that was said, because I've been a big critic of all of the protecting of countries, because I know that we'll protect them, and if we ever needed help, they won't be there for us. I've just known that for a long period of time, just like I knew about the strait, that it would be a weapon. We have 45,000 troops in Japan. We have 45,000 troops in South Korea. We have 45,000, 50,000 troops in Germany. We defend all these countries. And then, do you have any minesweepers? And they say, well, would it be possible for us not to get involved? We spend trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO to defend other countries. And I always said, but if it ever comes time to defend us, they're not going to be there. Many of them would not be there. We're going to have to start thinking more wisely in this country. Some have been very good. One or two have been great. I'll tell you who the great ones are at the right time.
Do you recall about 2 videos ago when I was talking about the Mexican president and her reluctancy to allow President Trump to help her deal with the cartels in her country? Not only did I obviously blame the decision on her, but I also blame the decision on the leftist media, which is constantly painting President Trump as a villain, which is causing hesitation from other world leaders to work with him. Here is a man taking out an actual villain, an actual dictator, and the media continues to vilify President Trump. It's absolutely insane, and that is why these allies hesitate in getting involved. President Trump makes a great point in this video where he says, we spend trillions of dollars protecting you, and now when we ask for a little help, you don't want to get involved. Everyone knows that Europe cannot defend itself without the might of the US Army. It's not far-fetched to say Russia would have taken over Ukraine and gone beyond Ukraine by now, if not for the US. As a matter of fact, top EU official himself recognizes this and vividly expressed this sentiment not too long ago. Let's take a look as a reminder.
So when President Trump is doing good stuff, I will praise him. And I don't mind him publishing text messages. And if anyone thinks here, again, that the European Union or Europe as a whole can defend itself without the US, keep on dreaming. You can't. We can't. We need each other. And why do we need each other? I tell you. First of all, because also the US needs NATO. And the US is not only in NATO to prevent a mistake after the First World War, not to re-engage with Europe. And then again, the long arm of history reaching out to the US again in the Second World War, as Churchill famously said in his speech in 1941 in the US Congress. They are also in NATO because for the US to stay safe, and by the way, Arctic region is evidence here, they need a secure Arctic, they need a secure Euro-Atlantic, and they also need a secure Europe. So the US has every interest in NATO as much as Canada and the European NATO allies. But for Europe, if you really want to go it alone, and those of you who are planning for that, forget that you can ever get there with 5%. It will be 10%. You have to build up your own nuclear capability. That costs billions and billions of euros. You will lose then, in that scenario, you would lose the ultimate guarantor of our freedom, which is the US nuclear umbrella. So, hey, good luck.
Anybody who is a realist knows this is simply, this is simple reality. So you think our allies would be more willing, and yet they're not. Here's French President Macron refusing to get involved in this issue.
We are not a party to the conflict, and therefore France will never take part in operations to reopen or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context.
Now, this was the general sentiment from many of our allies, unfortunately, and it's sad because this issue impacts them more than it does us. France, Germany, the UK, and others are simply turning their backs on us, and all it does is that it emboldens our enemies on all levels.
Your reflections, first of all, then, on this rather lukewarm response from allies to his call to defend the Strait.
Well, look, a lot of the allies now know how to deal with Donald Trump, and a lot of them have chosen the path of no official resistance, i.e. you don't say completely no to Donald Trump. You say that you're considering the matter, that you're discussing it, and that you'll give your answer a little bit later. That's sort of what the UK has done, which is saying we're in discussions, but there's no decision right now. The French have said that they're also talking about possible escorts when the situation will permit. So,
did you capture that? How to deal with Donald Trump. Hope everyone did capture that, because that is the message that is being transmitted across to the left and the globalists out there and all of our enemies. So then what happens next? Trump then has to, by default, has to go from tough cop to tougher cop, from not so nice guy to really not so nice guy, right? In the video with President Trump, he says that we spend trillions of dollars protecting them, and maybe we need to rethink this. When I heard this, I knew where he was going to go to next as leverage, and that is with NATO itself. From the first term, President Trump has been very, very critical regarding the amount of money that we pump into NATO. And to not get a mutual return on that investment, he knows that's not good business.
We are demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory, because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. You could make the case that maybe we shouldn't even be there at all, because we don't need it. We have a lot of oil.
So far, no other countries answered that call, prompting the president to lash out on social media. He wrote in a Truth Social post on Tuesday, "The United States has been informed by most of our NATO allies that they don't want to get involved with our military operation against the terrorist regime of Iran. I'm not surprised by their action, however, because I always considered NATO, where we spend hundreds of billions of dollars per year protecting these same countries, to be a one-way street. We will protect them, but they'll do nothing for us, in particular in a time of need. Because the fact that we have had such military success, we no longer need or desire the NATO countries' assistance. We never did." Speaking as President of the United States of America, by far the most powerful country anywhere in the world, we do not need the help of anyone.
Knowing that the U.S. contribution or alliance in NATO could be at risk, some nations have already begun to change their tune, and they changed it pretty darn quick.
Now, today, 6 countries, among them Britain, France and Japan, have said that they are ready to contribute to efforts to ensure the safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz. The waterway, of course, has been effectively blocked since this war began because Iran has been threatening to attack the ships that pass through.
The ballistic missiles of the nuclear capability is severely degraded. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, I've been in contact with many allies. We all agree, of course, that strait has to open up again. And what I know is that allies are working together, discussing how to do that. What is the best way to do it? They are working on that collectively to find a way forward.
Right now, there are 201 Ukrainians in the Middle East and Gulf region, and another 34 are ready to deploy. These are military experts who know how to help how to defend against Shahid drones. Our teams are already in the Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and on the way to Kuwait. We are working with several other countries. Agreements are already in place. We do not want this terror of the Iranian regime against its neighbors to succeed. And I sent these military experts at the request of our partners, including the United States. In fact, this is a part of drone deal we proposed to the United States, which we worked on together and which is still on the table. And we are ready to offer similar deals to all our reliable partners, from practical cooperation on drones to future defense alliances. And I don't think anyone would want to leave Ukraine's war-proven strengths and capability outside their security. If someone does, it wouldn't be wise. The United Kingdom sees these opportunities clearly. Our agreements are always solid, and I am glad that today we have signed a declaration with the Prime Minister.
French President Macron changed his tune pretty quick. Now, for all the money that we give NATO, especially when it comes to Ukraine, since their war started, you'd better believe they need to help us out, or they'll be back to being Russian again. It's really clear. We help you, you help us. It's got to be mutual. If it's going to be a one-way street, we don't need you. We don't need to be spending trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars or whatever the amount is, helping you guys over there, and then when we need a small favor, we don't get it. Doesn't work like that. As this situation continues, based on, who's impacted, I think asking for help in an escort type of manner to ensure your region's stability shouldn't be something out of this world. But because President Trump is vilified by our own people, especially by our own media, making deals with world leaders, it just becomes much more difficult than what it really should be. Now, thankfully, President Trump is one tough negotiator, and he isn't afraid to use the leverage of U.S. might and influence to move that needle. But should it be done in that manner? Should President Trump essentially threaten these countries or these world leaders in some way in order for them to help us out, since we've been overwhelmingly good regarding NATO and our contributions toward NATO? It just doesn't make sense. And I wish the left would reconsider their position, because what they're doing is hurting America on a global scale. And what it's doing is it's fueling this anti-American sentiment that's being sowed all over, not just here from within the country, but abroad. It's really interesting, because I grew up during a time where America was loved, admired, and appreciated by so many people, not just here within the country, but across multiple countries. Again, my wife, being born in Venezuela, she could attest to this. She could tell you that, man, looking back, and America was the best, and everybody wanted to go to America. Everybody wanted to have that experience, right? It was a privilege. It was the cool thing. It was the it place to be, right? That was the extent of it. I myself, experienced this when I traveled to my dad's home country of Peru as a teenager, due to, the way that I look and my skin color. I stuck out, right? I wasn't the typical, Peruvian person in that area, right? I look very different than my dad. I take more to my mom's side, right? And so, but I stood out, and it garnered attention. And again, I'm 15, I'm young. It garnered attention from the opposite gender, and I liked it. I felt like a bit of a rock star back then. And then once they found out that, I was an American, it was even more so, right? My status was even elevated even more, and that interest in me grew from those young ladies. Sadly, though, now it's all gone. Now, if you are American, you're seen as something bad, and that's really, really sad. And honestly, I blame the left for it. People still want to come here, but they don't want to be American. And in many cases, they hate America. And again, I'm going to directly blame the left, especially the leftist media, because all of this started, to be quite frank, during the Obama administration. That's when I personally started to see the decline of American pride, and just in so many different ways. And so it's really sad. But going back to what we're seeing here with these allies. You know what? Trump is an amazing negotiator. Trump is able to gather these world leaders and be like, hey, remember who we are. You don't want to help us out now? Great. Then we're not going to help you out later on down the road. And that type of ability, that type of, courage, boldness, tenacity, whatever type of a word that you want to describe him as, is what is helping America to stay on top, to get back to our glory days. And that's why the phrase, make America great again, resonates so much with me. And that is why so many of us continue to follow this president, because we do see our country, we do see him fighting for our country, and we see him elevating our country to where it needs to be, which is back on top. So guys, that's it for my video today. Thank you so much for joining. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. God bless you guys. God bless the United States, and God bless our president. Bye-bye.